guys, how are you? I am Dr. Pam, owner of Academic Coaching for World Changers. I am definitely newer to TikTok, so I thought I'd maybe introduce myself. I don't know. So let me tell you, if you've been following me on YouTube, you have known my life. I out myself all day, every day. I'm always going to out myself before somebody else does. But if you're new to me, let me take some time just to introduce myself. Like most people, I got married after I got my master's degree, and I thought I'd live happily forever after. I really did. I did. Didn't work out that way. It was not a great marriage, and he died when I was 50. I'm 60 now. So I tell people that are meeting me, I'm 10. Okay, I'm almost 11. Look at me. So everything about Dr. Pam is new. I learn what I like and what I want to eat. So it's been a bit. He died in October, and I started graduate school. I went back to get my PhD at 50. This was in October, and in March, I'm looking for a way to get my life back together and to heal and figure out who I am. I've still got kids to raise. I called a Capella. I didn't have the money for the application fee. They waived it, and they said, come on in. This is March, okay? So I did 4 years of school while trying to raise children by myself. I had never, ever planned on that. And I'm not sure, but as a Black woman, that's a stigma that I always wanted to avoid. I didn't get pregnant before I got married. It was very important to me. And those are my rules, really, just letting you get to know me. 4 years, I got my PhD. I will say to you that there's moments that I'll never, ever forget. My youngest child was in middle school at the time, and I remember having a post due on a Sunday night. You guys know that you were still in school, and I'm trying very hard. I'm teaching college. I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to heal from my life falling apart, and I still have to be a mama. And my youngest one says, Mom, you don't need a PhD. I have to finish middle school. Yeah. Went in the bathroom, cried, boo-hooed, got it together, went out and helped her finish her project, and still stayed up all night to finish that post. So as I'm going through life and learning me, and again, I'm 10, very traditional life. I grew up Southern Baptist. I wanted to be the preacher's wife. That was my goal in life, to sit on the front row with the big hat. That's all I wanted. I didn't know who I was, where I was. I was lost. I was lost for so much of my life. But I've known from day one that God had a plan for me. I've always known that. I've always known there was a plan for me. I have been teaching my whole life. I'm an LCSW by trade. And, we educate. That's what we do. We educate. I was a Sunday school teacher. I was worked forever and forever in children's ministry. If you're studying for your test or you're already a clinician, you know existentialism. At some moment, I'm like, okay, God, what now? What now? What now? There's a moment that clearly defines me. There's a couple of moments, but one that really clearly defines me is I received some news from just life, from him, and I was on my knees on my bathroom floor, and I'm at this point I'm having panic attacks, and this is again 10 years ago. I'm having panic attacks. My heart is palpitating, and you can feel it. And I'm really dressed in almost nothing, and because I'm hot, and I'm on my knees on my bathroom floor, crying out to God. Just God, I can't do this. I can't survive. I can't breathe one more minute. I just can't. I can't. And no matter what your belief system is, I audibly heard him say, I got you. What I heard him say is, I got you, girl. I got you. I got you. I share that to say, if you're watching my videos now as I travel the world and try to figure out life, I don't want you to think that I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth or anything, that I'm more blessed. Nothing, not at all, not at all. I started my business, Academic Coaching for World Changers, because I saw a need for people that just couldn't pass a standardized test. And I would see on Facebook all the time that people taking the test 2, 3, 4 times, and they felt so bad about themselves. I saw that people went back to get a second and a third master's because they couldn't pass the test. And what I clearly realized, based on a lot of my side gigs, I learned how to teach test-taking skills. That's what I've learned. I work with people that English was not their first language. So I knew that I knew how to teach people to take a test. And I've also known that teaching is my gifting. It's a gifting from God. I'm not going to pretend. It's purely from God. And if you watch my videos on YouTube, you spend time with me, I hope you get that when I speak, when you look at me, I hope the glow is my enjoyment of walking out in my gifting and giving praise to my Heavenly Father. Again, I will never try to tell you to believe how I believe, but I'm going to be very honest about who I am and where my belief system comes from. Yeah, I get a lot of people who say, I'm just going to pray and pass this test. Girl, faith without works is dead. Okay, you can pray all day you want, but you better open a textbook, just so you know. So again, I just want to share with you who I am. You can go back and watch my TikToks. If you're seeing me on TikTok, you can go back and watch my YouTube channel. That's what we've been mainly been, because I didn't know how to do TikToks. I hired social media people, and they didn't do what I wanted them to do. So I figured, let me just learn how to do it. So they are raw. They're not very good. I'm learning how to edit, and maybe at some point I'll hire another social media specialist, but I've gone through 3 in 10 years, and I just haven't figured out one that really works for me. Anyway, so again, I started my business 10 years ago. We went public with our first video in 2018, and if you called me back then, I would say, hi, welcome to Academic Coaching for World Changers. Oh, we want to get on Dr. Pam's schedule? We'll get back to you. There was no we. It was just me. It was just me. I believe life and death lie in my tongue, and I spoke that into existence. I really, really believe that. So if we fast forward to 2026, where we're at now, I've had many jobs. I've been in the field. I'm 60. I've been in the field since I always kind of rate it with my son. So he was born in '92, and that was the year I got licensed in the state of Florida. So again, worked in the field, had all of you, I've had 1,000 jobs, some part-time jobs. But when I got older, as I began to get older, I realized that I'd done everything. I'd done everything. Okay, I've never worked for DFACS. I've never taken children. I'm not gonna lie. And I always tell people, I didn't want my kids. I ain't gonna try to take yours. So anyway, but I've been in every field. I went into private practice when I first graduated. And I knew that was where I wanted to be. I loved the private practice, but I didn't have kids yet. And I was having kids and realizing my husband was in hospitality management. He worked 1 trillion hours, and both of us couldn't work that many hours. So I made a decision to give that up early in my career, and I worked for the school system. Mainly the school system, mainly systems that would work for me to be a mom. So I lived in South Florida, went to school in Miami, lived in South Florida for most of my adult life. My husband got sick, and we decided we'd move back to Tennessee, where there was family around. That was the beginning of the end of our marriage, but that's a different story. So anyway, I just want to share a little bit. So I spent years and years and years building this practice. I have taught college. I love teaching. But I taught college in North Georgia. And if you know anything about the area, I was the only one that looked like me. Feminist therapy says, if I say to my therapist that I am depressed when I go to work every day, feminist therapy says it's not me, it's how society oppresses me. Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you a million stories of how I was oppressed, of how I didn't matter, how I was insignificant, except when they needed a picture, a face to put on. Oh, look, we like black people. We got Dr. Pam. Other than that, I didn't matter. I really, really didn't matter. I was the director of a social work program, and I ran an amazing program. Didn't get a lot of accolades. If you work for the state, that's life. Life be lifing, right? So I stayed until I was 60. I turned 60 in October of 2025. So I stayed because quitting wouldn't get me anything, but if you retire, at least you got some benefits, right? So I stayed until I could retire. But in the meantime, the whole time, I was running this business and growing this business of academic coaching for world changers. Do you know that we are the only company that does what we do? The only company. We've modeled our program after Mathnasium that teaches all of those levels of math. We teach to all of the tests, whether it is you're a drug and alcohol counselor, a CACD or LADC, or the MAT, if you're a MAC, MAC, if you've got your LPC and you're trying to get that additional licensure. All levels of the social work, the BSW, the BSW, the LNSW, in some states are called something else, the LCSW, the clinical exam. We teach to all of those levels. We teach the CPCE, we teach the LMFT, we teach everything. I can tell you some hard ones. Ooh. That VOC rehab test, that kicks my butt. Oh my gosh, all those brain issues and learning my hindbrain and what happens here and knowing my neurotransmitters, that kicks my butt, but it keeps me in shape. It keeps me remembering what I need to learn. We have taught the EPPP before. I'm currently not teaching that just because I'm swamped. I'm totally swamped. So again, about our business. So I retired. I did this. I had a plan, Lord. I went to work every single day, hating my job, absolutely hating my job. Not the people that I have, very, very good friends, but how many times can you show up when you feel less than? How many times? I've traveled most of my life. I've told my kids I wanted them to know that America was not the be-all and end-all. And being from South Florida, it was easy because everybody's from someplace else. So once the kids were old enough to know there's not a Santa, I know, right? We traveled. So we would do spring break, we would do Christmas break, we would do anytime I was off in the summer. I wanted my kids to see the world. Right? The Emic viewpoint. So that led to me then being here. I retired from my job at 60 on January 2nd of 2026. I'm recording today. Today is February something. I think it's the 23rd, 2026. I left my job. Lots and lots of prayers. Trusting God that would this business sustain me? And I've still got a 22-year-old that's on my health insurance. So what I did for the last 2 years is I really didn't draw a paycheck from my job. I used it to pay taxes and put money in my 401k and really learned to live in an atmosphere where I could live off my business. Right? But still having the job to fall back on because I trust God, but I was scared. I was so scared. I can tell you that December 2025 and January 2026, my company has made more money in these 2 months than we've ever made. In December, before I officially retired, it was Christmas break, I took some time off, and I really put hours and time. We have a book, we have an app. I really put a lot of energy into my business because I had time. God showed up. He showed up. In December, we had the best December of the 10 years that I've owned this business. And December is reasonably slow. Let me tell you, a couple of Decembers ago, I travel every year for Christmas. I take my kids usually on a cruise. A couple of Decembers ago, my staff, my CEO quit on me in December, and I'm on a cruise. Okay, Lord, I can tell you that I think it's called the Skylink, whatever it's called on cruises. Invest in it if you think you might need to work, because that saved my business. It really saved my business. So again, God is amazing. God is amazing, amazing, amazing. I will continue to do what I do, and every interaction you have with me and with any of my staff members, I hope it shows that we love what we do. We really want to separate the sheet of paper from you being the therapist. Y'all know some people, they got alphabet soup after their name. They LPC, LCSW, they got some other stuff, and they are not good clinicians. They're just not. There's a very big difference between being a good test taker and a good clinician. I had clients today, we've got testing dates, and I will say to you in the 30 days before your test, stay off Facebook, except for our channel. You are not going to see people on my Facebook page that have, I took the test 7 times. Like, no, you're not. You are not going to see that. So if you take the test 7 times and you show up with us, we're going to spend time getting to know you and your learning style and figure out, do you need accommodations? How do you learn? If you've just been skimming the book and all you know about Gestalt is the empty chair, the problem is you don't know content. You need to know that it's emotional, and he's directive, and he's all up in your face, and he's telling you, oh, get rid of those feelings, and how did you loved him and you hated him. He also talks about the exaggeration technique, right? So he talks about your body language. So if I'm talking about my unfinished business, you know, that at X or the drug I gave up, and I am tapping, or I'm walking, I'm back and forth, right, doing this. He's going to talk about that. He's going to exaggerate that technique. He's going to say, come on, keep rocking back and forth, Pam. What does that feel like? What does it feel like? If you don't know that part, if you just memorize here and now, you're not going to pass the test. You're trying to do surface memory as opposed to really, really understanding the techniques. You learned it in school. You did. All of my clients, 99% of my clients graduated with a 4.0. Yes, they did. They're the smartest people ever. But they didn't learn anything. And if you're mad about taking the test, I always say, you need to go back to your school and ask them why they didn't tell you that. You took a careers class, right? For my LPC people, you took a careers class. You shouldn't be struggling to learn Holland, because I know you got an A on your paper when you wrote about Rhea Sack, right? If you are anybody, Freud is on every test, right? My id, my devil, my super ego is my angel, and my ego is who I am. My ego strengths, my ego defense mechanisms protect me from things that I can't handle. Unfortunately, if your teacher had said to you during those classes, this is on the test, you might have paid more attention. You know the material, you just can't put it together, and you keep trying to memorize it over and over again. I share that with you again to say we are the only tutoring company that does this. We have a 96% passing rate. And when it was just me, and now I think I have 13 coaches, and every single coach on my staff has been a client first. They teach the way that we teach. It is based on neuroscience. It's based on neuroplasticity. It's research-based. I have a PhD. We just didn't design this yesterday. It's really research-based. We also appreciate the people that have already tutored with us. We realized that when we first started, we didn't look like those old white men. I know everybody said take the Rosenthal book, or if you're a social worker, everybody said read the Apgar book. I don't look like any of them. No old white women or old white men. And I know, trusting her, why would I trust her? She don't know nothing. I do, I really do. It's research-based. It is how we teach, how we tutor, and how you pass the test. We're only gonna teach you things that you need for the test. I love Adler. He's got so many techniques, right? He's got the tar baby, where you get stuck in the mud, and he talks about that. But it's not a test question on any test that I teach. If I talk about Adler, I'm going to talk about inferiority and superiority, right? I'm a firstborn. Was born. My stuff don't stink. Oh, oh, look at me, firstborn. I'm feeling superior. Look at me. 2 years later, that brother was born. And now I was dethroned and I feel inferior, and I spend the rest of my life trying to get back up to feeling superior. That's family constellation or birth order. In a question, that's what I'm looking for. So you can't really memorize Adler, you just have to know. By the way, the only time you'll see individual psychologists with Rudolf Drucker, you'll never see his name ever again, and everything is really based on Adler's theory. I love Adler. Adler was remember, we're studying old, white, very wealthy men. Even Maslow, who talked about making sure you had food and clothing, he was still a rich, old, white man. Adler was one of the very few theorists that actually did his research with middle-class families. Okay, that was all white, let's not pretend. So remember, on any test that you take, the only time culture came in was when schools were integrated, right? You didn't count black people, brown people, sorry for the test. It didn't happen until schools were integrated. That happened officially in like 1956. I can tell you I started elementary school in 1970 and it was not fully integrated, just so you know. Okay, but anyway, I just share that. Those little hints and tips that I always want to share. So I love Adler. He talks about lifestyle assessments. He talks about family constellations. Great, but some of those things aren't going to be on the test. We tutor to the test. So thank you for taking the time to get to know me. Know that I really have busted my butt to get here, and I've got the same anxieties that you have. So as you watch me travel through Mexico, know this is such a learning experience. Know that I don't want to leave any stone